You're listening to the Devil Dog Talk Show.
This show contains explicit material and is recommended for ages 18 and older for mature audiences only. But hey, it's the internet.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Devil Dog Talk Show. Today we have T. Shane Johnson. And you know what? We have had a bit of a trade-off of emails, I think, with one of your managers or something like that. And I found it so captivating. One of the projects that you are developing, or full-scale business, actually, I shouldn't call it a project, right? With hydroponic coffee. And I was just amazed by it because, again, you know, all you guys know me. I like talking about water, you know, conservation, soil preservation, agricultural development, all that good stuff. I've been mentioning it a lot this year, actually, quite a bit, probably too much. But then I reached back out and we got it booked for today. So I'm really excited to turn it over to T. Shane. Hey, T. Shane, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for asking. I appreciate you allowing us the opportunity to be on your platform and chat with your audience and tell a little bit about our story and what we're doing.
Solid, man. That's really, really, really important because not only do you have, of course, the military background, you're a veteran, the trajectory I see, of course, agriculture as a whole and the important role, not just veterans, but, you know, Americans have to really get invested in, not just infrastructure, but education and proliferation of that mission and message. What got you started into hydroponic coffee?
That was an accident. It wasn't some type of big initiative when I kind of started with it. It was really just my daughter wanted to build a business when she was 6, and we got into coffee. Now, mind you, my background, growing up in Florida, my family raised cattle and we grew oranges. So I did have a very long-standing background in agriculture and ranching. And then when I was in the Marine Corps, I didn't want anything to do with it anymore. So I just kind of, joined the Marine Corps and dipped out, never gave it a second thought. My family continued to do it. I was the only one that didn't play a part in that. And then, I went into banking with the opposite of farming and ranching, the antagonist to it all. So, and I just really wanted to understand the finance side of it. When you work with a lot of farmers and ranchers, there's a passion there that's so strong, but they're always, so broke. And it's because a lot of times, they give so much passion to what they do that it's hard for them to sell it and not bring themselves, out of the position of care and thoughtfulness, and they end up underpricing their product. So, my daughter, I want to build a business, Dad, rock and roll. We get into coffee, start to learn it. And then I was fortunate to go through a program for disabled veterans at Appalachian State University. It was called Arm to Farm program, and also Frontline to Farm program. And after going through that program, I was kind of thinking about, I had a little piece of property. I was thinking about maybe doing something with it. I wasn't really sure. Just kind of toning myself back a little bit from all the things that I've been doing. And I'd met with another Navy guy, and he was growing hydroponic lettuce. And it was funny because, it's funny now because we're like the foremost experts in coffee hydroponics. And at the time I was a complete idiot. I had no clue what it was, so it's kind of funny sometimes doing this, thinking back to that moment. But I just consumed it. I was really, really intrigued about that type of farming. And when you work in the residential mortgage side, finance side, commercial property side, banking, side, you unfortunately the scorched earth thought process of burning land and building it into condos is not going to stop. You can try. Preservation is great, but we're just natural consumers. Humans are just right. We eat our own tails. So I think eventually we have to find a way to kind of take that traditional thought process and merge it with innovative technology and come up with something. Because land acquisition for a farmer is just increasingly too high, and there's just too many dynamics to it. So, indoor farming in utilizing techniques like hydroponics and aquaponics and so on and so forth is definitely going to be the future of it. But yeah, anyways, met with him, came back to the house. It's like, what? Maybe we can do that with coffee. Then I went on Google, like we all do, typed in Google, and there was nothing, not one article, 8 pages in Google, Yahoo, nothing. Like absolutely
not
nothing.
at all.
No one had ever done
nothing.
It. There was no stories, nothing. And I thought, man, either I have found something here or I am totally missing it. So we had a little bit of money left in the account in our savings, and typical me, I was like, you know what, let's just start growing. Let's figure it out. And we made a ton of mistakes, grew and killed a lot of trees, and then eventually we cracked the code and We became the first and only indoor hydroponic coffee farmers. From the way I'm understanding it now, as our touch starts to go out in the world.
That is so amazing, man. Because listening to the fact that it was your daughter at 6 years old to say, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to do this. And then to kind of go through that pathway, trial and error, right? How long have you guys been doing this now? And what was the learning curve like, of course? And of course, I want to have a lot of questions because we're touching up so much. But what was that learning curve like? And how did that kind of lead to here where now you are the subject matter experts?
Well, the learning curve is still curving. So, there's still a lot of factors.
Curving, bro.
We're still curving. So, I think, when you build something, when you do anything, I'd take it back to maybe military career, just consider an audience and dynamic. Mission objective is important. And, the Marine Corps is really great at brainwashing us, in the beginning. And I mean that in a positive manner, in the sense of getting us to understand that as a unified unit together with a higher power mission, right? God, country, core. And you can kind of really have that as spirit of core thought mindsets, lay that tradition in, learn about the history of the people to sacrifice, emotionally connect with that, get on the same page, and then give us a mission to accomplish, knowing that mission is to continue the tradition of all the things that you've learned and been conditioned to believe, right? So that's a very systematic approach to the Marine Corps' execution. And I think if you break it down into what is the simplest terms of where all of us can relay that is, for me anyways, and again, I speak in context of what I know. So obviously I'm not a mom, so I can't be like as moms and daughters and so on and so forth. So, but as a father, we automatically have as being a girl dad, is a sense of responsibility to lead, preserve, protect, and it's very mission oriented. So when people ask me a lot about the coffee and the farming and everything, I always say, first and foremost, let's make sure we get one thing clear. I did not start the coffee business. My daughter started the coffee business. I did not name the coffee business. My daughter named the coffee business. Honestly really didn't even build the brand of it. Charli built the brand of it. Now the hydroponics, that one's me. I'll give that one to me. But the rest of it is really the dynamic of her. And I didn't care if it was unicorns. I didn't care if it was ponies. Just thank God it wasn't those. And it just happened to be coffee. And because that was it put me in that mission objective mindset to, again, follow those things. And I just went after it. And that was really kind of the biggest thing. The learning curve, I think, yes, understanding hydroponics has been around since the time of Babylon. It's not a very confusing system. It's actually a very archaic, simple system. I think the coffee part is and continues to be, there's 134 different varieties of coffee. There's different growth factors of coffee. It's the flavor profile, and coffee has all these. It's very finicky, fruit. I mean, it takes a long time to germinate, depending on the variety, and you got to grow. It takes a long time to yield, right? It's like a freaking peach tree, and then then when you finally get it, you got to find out if it's got a flavor profile. You can grow a peach, and it's kind of hard to mess up a peach. I mean, I'm not saying you can't, but it's not that hard. You pick the peach off the tree, and it's like, it tastes good. Now coffee, you got to cook. Now the way you cook it and the profile and how you harvest it and what you do, all the way to where it gets to the consumer's mouth, where they're just like, oh man, I'm done with that for $3. There's a lot that goes into the foundation of that. So that learning curve is as I mentioned, still curving, but again, we're also setting the foundation for that. So really, it was just the motivation of my daughter and her vision to build a great business, allowing her to leave a legacy and just being unique to the market and providing something that's American grown, American made.
See, that's something that really got me excited to talk about too, because getting kids involved on early entrepreneurships or ideas, anything, getting them out of that employee mindset, right? That's okay. Don't get me wrong. Like everybody, hey, don't dog me out. I'm simply saying that for me and mine, I always found it more powerful to say, hey, look at all the opportunities, because in my life, I don't wish at all for my children to repeat any of the mistakes I did. And a lot of it stems from education and financial availability. That's just the routine existence here in planet Earth, right? So when I saw that your daughter had this passion, and it's very, very apparent, and I'm like, dude, that is so awesome. How did you guide her in her education to not just feel empowered? Of course, being a girl dad, that's definitely, protect, empower, and provide, and that's beautiful. How did you, I guess what I'm trying to ask is, how did you develop that confidence, that self-esteem, where she was just like, yes, let's go? Because that's exactly how it feels watching her talk about the coffee. And I'm like, and then I'm just looking at the hydroponics, okay? Because and I'm like, wow, but all of it put together, it's just really it's a great inspiration, period.
So yes, I would say there was relatively some conditioning there due to the fact that I spent 15 years as a motivational speaker and executive leadership coach. I maybe had some tried and true things and techniques that I've used. And one of the things I want to, I'll come to that specific question because I don't want to put it in my lap in the sense that I did something unique, but I will say that the other day we were riding in the truck and she said to me, no, what was it? She was walking up to, we were in Reno and we were on the sales floor. We were at this convention and basically, we had a bunch of buyers, grocery buyers, so on and so forth, all West Coast stuff. And so it was our first time launching in West Coast. Well, we will be next month, like in Hawaii and California and some other places. And so people were coming up to us and I was there the first day. She had gotten a little sick. We had a long travel. So she went up to the room. And of course, everybody knows Charli, the 10-year-old CEO in the CPG industry in this little realm right now. So, everyone's like, where's Charli? Where's Charli? Where's Charli? And I'm like, she's up in her room. She's texting me, she's like, Dad, I'm upset. I'm sick. Is there anything I can do? I'll be ready for tomorrow. Like just very, concerned about making sure she was there. Oh. And so the next day she's finally feeling better. She toughs through it. She's got a little cold. She comes downstairs and she's sitting there and it's probably like 15 minutes and us being at this booth. And she's like, you know what? I'm going to go walk the floor. And I was like, walk the floor. And she says, I'm going to grab some brochures and just go start selling some coffee. She's like, there's no reason for me to just be sitting here. And she was like, well, I'm not going to have them come to me. I'm just going to go to them. And what's funny? I think at those moments when Charli speaks to me like that, there is a moment as like a father or a parent where your fears project if you're not careful, and rejection, thinking of rejection, like you getting rejected, so I'm going to go sell somebody and they say no, right? So as a parent, your first thing is to think like, I don't want her to go get a bunch of no's and feel rejected and then feel like it was a waste of time. Yeah. One of the things I've had to train myself to do is that when she speaks that way, is that I go, all right, go for it. I don't pause, stop, or sound like I'm insecure about it. And it allows that boost of confidence to make sure that her decision, she wants validation from me because she still sees me as a father, right? So I'm like, go kill it, go do whatever. So she goes out, comes back. Anyways, like in 4 hours, she pulls like $12,000 worth of accounts. It was like insane. There was like people coming over, all wrapped around her. It was ridiculous. So I said, we were walking back after we wrapped up the day. And I said, I'm just so proud of you. You amaze me every single time. I'm like, how did you get to be like that? Like I'll ask her those questions, like just like you asked me. Yeah. And she'll look at me and she'll say, Dad, because of you. She's like, don't you remember riding in the car when I was little and having me yell every time we would go to school about how I'm powerful, I'm strong, I'm amazing, I can accomplish, I can do anything. And I guess I just forgot about it. I just forgot that we used to do that all the time. Cause she's so far advanced now, I just forget when she was a little dude sitting back there doing that. And I said, you know what? I do remember that. And she goes, you've been telling me to believe in myself ever since I can remember. She was like, so when I walk in there, I do exactly what you told me to do, is believe in myself. And I was like, there you go, man. So I do think there's some conditioning there, but ultimately at the end of the day, I just believe in her. And that's it. Look, we are, as adults, we're so pretentious. We think we know everything. We're absolute idiots. Like we are a byproduct of failures, fears, and projection. I mean, we really are. We lump all that up. We get into our 40s. We have kids. We're cynical. We're condescending. We're sarcastic. We let the world just wear and beat us up. And And then what we do is we covey our children so much that we kill their imagination and their dreams with the systematic approach of factory work mindset, right? Go to college, get a job, do all the things. And we don't allow them to teach us. And the moment I realized that God had put my daughter in my life with a certain window of that imagination to teach me, I wrapped my head around it. And that's how we ended up where we are today. Her vision is just is just a byproduct of me listening to her and getting behind her and laying things that I can as an adult to put that infrastructure in place so that her dreams and visions can continue to grow. And that's why it continues to keep doing what it's doing.
Dude, that's amazing. Because as a father, there's a lot of things you don't want to do. Like you're saying, you don't want to stifle imagination. You don't want to destroy that sense of what's the word here? Discovery and eagerness, right? And that's something that I find just always difficult to do, right? Coming from a lot of different background, right? And you had that work experience not only in the Marine Corps, right, to confront those I want to say situations where you have to rise to the outcome or to the situation, but also as a motivational speaker, also as an entrepreneur yourself. But to see you, kind of not recognize, that huge accomplishment in a child's life, that sense of confidence and self-esteem is something that is so beautiful. That, man, I can't enjoy that interaction right now, this conversation, so much more than I could imagine as a father, and as a brother. I go, man, that's just amazing, because to see it go, from here now, where it's at, right, then grow further. And being so young, she's 10?
She's 10, yeah.
10, wow. That's just mind-blowing. All right. Like, I don't even know. So I tell my kids all the time, they're into robotics and they're into game development and coding and stuff. And my other younger one, he's into authoring and writing and stuff. And he sees me writing all the time. They see me on the mic, doing all this stuff all the time. And I always tell anything you could think of, just pursue it. And it's beautiful when they do and they gain traction in it. Then they have that's like, again, I can't focus hard enough on it. That self-esteem, that confidence, that energy, it ignites in me to do this better, right? It ignites in me to work harder as a man, as a father, as a husband. And me and my bro were just talking about this really cool conversation about that. Sean Dickens. Amazing guy, launching Tilted Kilt Productions out in Texas, out in Willis. And we were talking about, this very concept of putting things forward for our children, right? How do we best serve that next generation? And dude, outside looking in, you're nailing it. I'm like, okay, cool. I gotta start following T. Shane a little bit more on this, man. Come on, man. Okay, just relax. Got it. Relax. Just let him go off and do things. So managing that stress as a father now, to kind of, focus in a bit on you, I should say, let's go back a bit, because I do want to talk about the military service. How did you go about entering and beginning your service into the Marine Corps?
I think a lot, like a lot of us that grew up in small towns, was a recruiter had to hit quota. So, they put the specific recruiters in the areas. And of course, where we were, as Marine Corps was pushing quite a bit, and, chicks dig the uniform. So I think that was the first kind of opportunity. I mean, look, I say it with all due respect with the other branches. I mean, the Marine Corps is the best, never lost a battle. Just the training, the leadership training, the ability to be a tight knit unit, functionality. I mean, just everything about it. And it is, and you earn it. You really, truly earn it. I mean, the Marine Corps, you don't hit the mark, you're out, and that follows a line with everything. There's no kind of like, well, we'll let you. I mean, you don't, you don't pass sniper school. You're not a sniper, right? You don't
Exactly.
go, you don't pass BRC. You're not going to be a recon bubba. I mean, it's just so many factors where it just played a role, and it just, you had to hit those marks. And there was something about that. I grew up, my father was a pretty tough dude on me. And, Marine Corps was a great escape from that, as far as just the freedom of being able go out on my own and make my own decisions. You know, as ironic as that sounds, but you know, it was great. And joining the Marine Corps was awesome. I was very fortunate. I graduated honor grad. I was meritoriously promoted 3 times by the time I got to the fleet. You know, I served with 3rd Battalion, 4th Marines in 29 Palms as an infantry guy for about a year or so. And then I switched over to 1st Reconnaissance Battalion over at Camp Margarita, Camp Pendleton. And
Nice.
yeah, spent my time over there from 98 to 02. And of course, 9/11 happened during that time. And yeah, and that's why I joined the Marine Corps. It was just a great opportunity. And, you know, I love being a Marine.
See, that's amazing to me because I've been in and around old Camp Pendleton myself. It's a beautiful time to catch up with other brothers that have served throughout different phases of the Marine Corps, because a lot of it has, like you said earlier, that spirit. And a lot, I don't know, I don't really consider a branch. You know, everybody would say it's the best branch. I'm like, no, that's a cult. Okay, it is a religion. They will kill you and say, blessed be. Okay, like it's not, there's no in between with Marines, and it's so good. You know, being a corpsman, it was something that I really attached to and was affirmed by, and validated all those things. You know, all those motivations in life, those ambitions. You know, and so that's amazing. You served throughout that. You know, 9/11 happened. What happened? Did you get out after that time frame, or how long did you end up serving for?
Yeah, I just served 4 years. So after I got back from deployment, I was with 1st Recon. At the time, MS-13 was targeting members of the military that were coming off the back of the base towards Fallbrook area for gang initiation. So basically, if the way I understood it, if they wanted to get into a gang, they would kill a member of the military, and then that was kind of like their blood in kind of thing. So I happened to be, you know, no specific reason. I just happened to be the person that day that came out there wearing camouflage on a motorcycle, and they targeted me and chased after me with a car, hit me, and I caught the corner of a brick house at 45 miles an hour. All of my bones in my upper body were broken, my ribs, my entire chest plate was smashed, my collarbone, my hands, had a flail chest, my ribs punctured and lacerated all my major organs, and then punctured 350 pieces into my lungs. And my shoulder blade was broken. My left bicep was lacerated. My brachial plexus was ripped and torn. And then when I hit the ground, they got out of the car. 3 of them got out of the car and kicked me and robbed me, left me for dead. So I got up afterwards because nobody would help me. And I walked 2 blocks to a fire station, taking 1 full breath every minute. Got to the fire station, happened to be a doctor on site, and got down on a knee, and they brought in a helicopter, fly me out. But they got me in the helicopter, and, you know, obviously my lungs were filling up with fluid. So I remember, like, when I was walking towards the fire department, you know, my chest was expanding like Stretch Armstrong because my chest plate was broken and all my fluid was, you know, pouring into my body. You know, you don't realize how it's like little sacks that basically hold all this fluid until it cuts open, and then now it just pours into this casing, right? This body, you know, your skin's kind of holding everything in, and it was just filling up. It was pouring out, you know. So my skin, because my chest was broken in half, my skin was literally expanding. Like I can still remember looking down and watching it move because it was filling up so fast. Because it's nasty. It makes me sick still talking about it. But so I got to the. Sorry, hold on.
It's okay.
It's been years of therapy, and it's still all kinds of stuff sneaks in sometimes. It just happens. One podcast.
No, that's okay, man.
So
no, I'm right here with you. That's, I'm right here with you.
Yeah. So I get there, they bay flight, bring in, and because of what's happening, they have to run chest tubes. So they took a scalpel, cut me open, and then ran a tube in, and then of course, you know, the fluid went out, and then my lungs went up, and you know, I flatlined. That was the first time I flatlined, and then they got me to the hospital. Flatlined out a second time. I was actually flatlined out pretty long this time. They called back to command and let them know that I didn't make it. And then they brought me back. Third time they got in, intubated me, got me all set up on the tubes, and then I flatlined out a third time, and then they brought me back. And then all in all, I was in the hospital for probably about 2 weeks. Or I'm sorry, I was in CCU for about 2 weeks. I lost like 54 pounds. I went to ICU. Then I was in there for probably about 8 months. Had to learn how to like walk, talk, breathe again.
Yeah.
And then they couldn't put me out of civilian hospital. I ended up having to go, stay there for a bit and then put me back on base. And yeah, and then after that, I still had some little time in my service, and my unit, First Recon, was getting ready to deploy. So they were shipping out to Hawaii and then going on, if I remember correctly. And I was up for reenlistment. And I went to go reenlist at the dive locker, and the gunnery sergeant who was there at the time was like, "Yeah, I'm not going to approve that." he's like, "Yeah." He's like, maybe you should just stick with the fact that you made it through this and just kind of get out and maybe go do something. He's like, "I don't think it'd be a good idea for you to head over and maybe get killed again." He's like,
Yeah.
It's not fourth time's the charm. It's third time's the charm. He's like, maybe we shouldn't do that. So it's kind of funny. He brought over a box and it had all my gear, some of my dive gear stuff in it. And it was like, dead on arrival Johnson. He was like, "You see that box?" He's like, "That box." And I remember like opening it up and I looked inside and I was like, "Man, all these Marines took all the good stuff. It's like, they didn't put all my stuff in there. They took my movies, did my stuff.
Oh my God.
Jarheads. Yeah." But anyways, so I ended up getting out after that.
That's a harrowing tale, bro. Like I didn't know all of that. I don't like diving into, I like these moments where, although it was raw, I love it, because to me, you survive something where most people wouldn't. And I even had to smack my face because when you said nobody helped you, it's something that speaks volumes, not only of the society that we still exist in, but even the society back then. And to know that there's these things, right, that continually happen where, people are hurt, like literally targeted by gangs. Okay. Like, I don't know much about the MS guys, but what I do remember growing up, in the Central Valley about other gangs and stuff like that's what they do. There's that, like you said, that blood in, blood out situation. That's a great movie, but not a great lifestyle. Okay. Coming from a guy that looks like Miklo, like, trust me, I heard it my whole life. All right. But what I'm saying is you survived it, and, you were able to move forward with it, because as you were describing all of that, I've worked cases, all of those type of cases where you're inserting chest tubes, you're doing pericardial synthesis, you're doing needle decompression, you're doing you're recirculating the blood, because there isn't much blood in the human body when you're losing it, dude. Like that's the crazy thing. When it starts going in all the wrong places, there isn't much to do, and you had to walk 2 blocks to a fire department, and by the graces of God, there was people there to help you get there and establish something. But then to flatline all those times, of course, me, being a little bit of a paranormalist, right? I'm like, "Hey, did you see any light?" Like, was there?
Yeah, I get that a lot.
Yeah, okay. I'm not asking you. You don't have to.
No, it's fine. It's okay. It's all right. Everybody asks. But I did want to make a point with something. So it's funny because I believe the body holds 6 pints of blood, if I remember correctly,
roughly.
And I lost 4. And it's the funny thing about it is when you're bleeding out, when you're a kid and you watch those 80s, war movies, or you go back and you kind of look at some of those war movies, and the little guy's there, and then he's saying, "I'm so thirsty," and the guy's like, "You give him," I think it was probably Robert Duvall when he's trying to give the guy water in Apocalypse Now, I think it was, or something, and he's like, "You take care of that man, the decency," and he gives him water or whatever. But it's so true, because your body is depleted so much of that blood that it's dehydrated. And you need water so bad. So to this day, I can only drink really water. I mean, every once in a while I can have maybe a Coke or tea or something, but because of that experience, I literally will only drink water. Because it's the only thing you think of when you're dying, I'm going to tell you right now, is getting a glass of water, as weird as that sounds, because your body's depleted so much blood. But yeah. Anyways, so third flatline. I always tell people, like, look, when I use the term God, just for the context of conversation, it's the generalization of higher power. My brain's too small to try to put it in context to understand, to say what it was or what it wasn't. So for me, it was more of a subconscious conversation. So the third time that I wanted to die, the third time. So the first 2 times I fought it. The third time I was ready to die. The pain was just it was too bad. I mean, it was, when your entire chest cavity is broken and your blood is pouring into your lungs, you're like being waterboarded blood.
You're drowning on your own blood.
You're drowning on it. Yeah. So they would have a tube that would sit into my mouth like you did at the dentist to pull all that blood out. So every time it would go in, it would gargle and shove back down my throat again. And I would cough. And when I would cough, all of my ribs and my chest plate would move and puncture my organs. So it's like having a full internal stomach of razor blades. And every time you move, those razor blades are slicing any way that they want to. So the pain from that was so bad that when I would cough, blood would pour out of my face onto my neck. And then I would gurgle on it and cough, and then it would start to move and cut everything. It was unbelievable, man, the amount of pain. So the third, when I was kind of sitting there, I think they probably popped me with some pain pills at that point. And I kind of had a moment where I was done. I'm done. Like, I even remember telling them, I was like, I'm good. I'm ready to go. And then you kind of fall into what I like to think of, if you're a what do they call it? Come on, Shane. It's right at the tip of my tongue. You're a yogi, right? So, and you're in the purest form of euphoria and meditation, right? Let's just say, like, the most purest form. What I assume is what they're trying to achieve, which is 100% euphoria with all noise is gone, and you're only within yourself, and you're in your mind, and everything is eliminated. Just kind of how I picture it. So it was literally that. It was like when you put in AirPods and it has noise cancellation, or you go underwater, right? Yeah. And the sound is gone. That's what it was like. Completely gone, no sound, nothing. And it was like you were just sitting there, and all the noise, man, the bills, the girlfriend drama, the life, the struggles, the fights, the pain, the trauma from childhood, everything gone. Like, just completely gone. It was like, just this purest form of euphoria you can imagine. And I was sitting there, and it wasn't like a being, it was just a conversation. And the conversation was like, today, if you choose to die, I want you to know it's okay and it's guilt-free. And it took me a lot of time to still try to figure out what all this stuff meant as I go through it. And what I've come to the conclusion is that it was saying that this isn't you wanting to take your own life and just give up. This is a moment or crossroads where you can decide during that crossroads that it's guilt-free. It's okay. We'll take you. Like, you can come on. It's all right. You've been through this, and this is okay. And I remember that moment kind of falling back in that because it felt so good. And I was just done, man. Like, done, just done. It was a tipping point of a lot of other things. And and then it said, you can choose, or you can choose to live, and it's going to be a lot of pain, but you'll get to live life. And of course, pain was all up to interpretation at that point. Is that physical pain, mental pain, trauma, whatever? I wasn't really sure. I was too young to really even know the difference. And thought to myself, well, I think I just got a competitive advantage. And of course, I'm dumbing this down, but I've got this competitive advantage now that I know that there's something on the other side. What if I give the other side a shot and see what's out there? Because I don't know what that holds. And that's kind of, again, just kind of the dumbest, dumbing it down thought process. And so I always say, jokes on you guys listening. I chose to live. I know you were wondering what happened, but yeah, that's pretty much what happened. And then of course I chose to live, and here we are.
Dude, that is absolutely profound. Like, the whole relationship to life and death. You're right. It's like this continual decision, regardless of what's going on, like you're the insurmountable. I guarantee you're probably still filled with so much pain, right? And having to choose to get up and be not motivated, maybe just inspired, because I think motivation's been kind of getting that cheap selling point lately, right? And to hear that you chose life, right? You were there with, God, the powers that be, and that existence of something else was so, impactful that it's something that I reflect on constantly. It's just as another human being in existence, seeing so much death, seeing so much pain, seeing all the other things. It's like I'm constantly curious, like, what is next? You know, is there something? I always feel that there's something profound in this next phase. And to hear that you actually experienced it, flatlined, went there, done that, bought the t-shirt, right? Said, hey, I'm coming back. I hope everybody's ready for T. Shane 2.0. Because when you got back to that point, right, the rehabilitation, all of that, and then you finally got out, how did you then get to that next phase of life where you established not only being an author or a motivational speaker or entrepreneur, but where were you at that point? How did you get beyond not just this major challenge in life, right, and just tumultuous experience and literal death, not just near death, but literal death, and then, you know, welcome back. How did you go about processing or managing all of that?
Well, I didn't. I mean,
okay.
So
fair enough.
Yeah. I so, you know, look, it wasn't up until probably recently where I would stand on stage or I would do interviews and I would talk about it. And I always like to stay in a positive light because I think the veteran community lives in a little too dark of a world. And I think that doesn't inspire the younger generation or moms to be like, I want my kid to join the military because everyone's, you know, bat crazy. You know, so I don't like to send that message, but I've also learned that, when I run a business or I'm doing something and I'm watching a movie, you know, or something of that nature, like I want to see the real struggles because I want to understand the struggle for one, to realize I'm not alone, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I hope that someone in that audience says that I'm not impenetrable. I'm not perfect. Right. Like, you know, you see a lot of these, you know, like David Goggins and they do talk about a lot like using pain and stuff, but I think they're always look at it like they're at 1,000% all the time, right? Like, oh, David Goggins never wakes up and today I'm going into, which I think is just, it's unreasonable. It's unrealistic expectations for the general public. Yeah, maybe there are a couple people out there, the psychopaths that can do that. That's great, but I mean, the general public, you know, people, that's not them. They're not high tier operators that have been through it. And to be honest with you, I don't even believe half that BS sometimes. I just think it's for the audience. I think the reality of it is I was never motivated or inspired. When I was given a second chance at life, I was given a lease and I just had to pay payments, man. So all the stuff you see me running across America, breaking world records, building the farms, doing stuff with my daughter, like, I'm just paying the lease. Basically, God said, all right, well, we could have took you then and cashed in on that lease, but we renewed it for another, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years. And here's the debt. And you got to pay payments every month. So I tell people, I'm not selfless. I'm not some hero. I'm not somebody to follow in that sense. You know, I'm selfish. Like, I'm selfish because I do the things that I do because I am internally in debt and grateful for having a second chance at life when a lot of guys we served with and gals we served with never came back. They never get to hold their kid. They never get to hug their wife or husband. They never get to spend time with their family. Their family never gets to hear their voice again. Their kids grow up without fathers. And somehow, you know, I was brought back, who knows why. And I get to sit here and spend time doing nothing but talking about the love of my life, my daughter. And I get to watch her grow up and I get to watch her laugh and I get to build a business with her and I get to be here. So when people see all these crazy things I do, it's just me paying that lease so I can continue selfishly being around my daughter, selfishly building a business with her, selfishly spending that time with her. And it makes me feel guilty 24/7. I have survivor's guilt 24/7. Like, why did I live? Am I living up to the expectations? Am I doing all the right things? Because when you're blessed with somebody so amazing like my kiddo, and we get to do these amazing things and people feel that her story is enough to get behind her and support her and invest in her or buy her coffee. Like, man, I got is equal distribution. I've got to pay that debt back. So if I can help, if I can give the shirt off my back, if I can give the last $10, if I can sleep in a homeless shelter, if I can, you know, run across America, if I can do 1,000 push-ups, even though I'm in tons of pain and they can help raise money to help someone else, then it's my responsibility.
See, and that's something that I I align so much so with, because that selfishness, as much as you say it is selfish, right? I go, it's the best type of selfishness you could want out of a man, a human being, another monster out there, creating and destroying. That's what mankind is, right? But to see that capability to push through and persevere, that's kind of where I think that discipline and the responsibility, the obligation, that performance, isn't this envious action or, this competitive action. It's this, and you could say it's not, but it actually ultimately is altruistically going to create a world 100 times better, 1,000 times better for all the generations, much like your daughter. But look at it as a full scope and scale. To know that there's a 10-year-old CEO, I'm going to go talk to my children a lot today. And a lot. I'm going to be like, hey guys, guess what I found out today? And all I can say is perfect. Set high goals, standards, set your expectations high, create high self-esteem, drive that confidence. Say, you know what? Hey, I'm the same way with my kids, dude. I don't like wasting any minutes, any hours away from them. I'm not flexing. It's not like a show off. I have not missed a day of their life. Maybe one or two because I had to go to doctor's appointments or fly somewhere. That's about it. And to me, when my kids, I look back at it, 13 and 10 now, I go, wow, I don't know many fathers that would make those decisions to create a lifestyle, to then manifest and then create something where your children see such a resonant and positive leader, right? And then not it be like, oh, look at me, hey, look at me. Like, I'm not saying everybody else is doing that, but I'm saying a lot of people are. And I go, but that's okay. Me and Luisa Fonseca were talking about this the other day on our last episode. People think their doo-doo don't stink. Okay. And I'm like, yeah, hey, everybody doo-doo stank. Doo-doo stank. Okay. Like that's just the way it is. And if you can't, it's not so much about being humble, but having, like you said, that selfishness for the right intentions to create that better tomorrow for your daughter and to pay that debt. You say you have survivor's guilt. And I go, I could only imagine. One, the depth of service, two, the depth of injury, and then this concept and context of paying a debt to an almighty God that's allowed you a new lease on life, literally, right? That's profound, man. That's something that I am just amplified by right now, like electricity, because it's something that I think a lot of veterans do. You said it really well. A lot of veterans, it's a very dark culture, right? In general, it's a dark perspective on what it means to serve. Decorations, what is valor? What does it mean? Sure, our Medal of Honor recipients are getting quadruple benefits. Wonderful. But if we still have regular dudes that are homeless or entire families that aren't getting treated good, I think we should all maybe say, hey, maybe not the right move, right? I don't know. That's the way I think about things. And sometimes I see people like yourself where you're like, hey, my daughter gave me this idea. She created this whole thing. And all I did was support her the way I know how to support not only our nation as a veteran and as a Marine, but as a man. And I could pray to God that she emulates every day a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. Because I guarantee you're absolutely her hero. And I'm positive you probably look at her the same way. And I'm like, dude, that is such a beautiful relationship. So to kind of carry it forward now, after all of these, of course, successes, and I don't want to say negative experience because you've catalyzed it into a positive outcome regardless. And that's something that I really want to kind of focus in on when you're developing this new scalable hydroponic systems, right? Because I am always been intrigued about hydroponics, aeroponics. There's even this weird fog stuff that people are developing. I don't really understand it. It's like a high micro vapor and all this really neat stuff. how do you go about looking for or designing that next step for your daughter's vision and yourself?
Well, I think our first thing is we carry the love and passion that we have together, and I think food, any kind of food, any kind of quote unquote consumer packaged good is the goal, right? It's a story behind a product. So when you go into a shelf, there's 6,000 stories, and you have to determine if that story is relatable to you in order for you to one time purchase that product. There are people purchase the first time on the story, the second time on the product. So you know, once you've kind of developed that first and foremost, and you've laid out that distribution, allow people to be a part of something, I think food really kind of resonates that, and coffee takes it up to the next level, especially here in America. It's a barter exchange of conversation, love, entrepreneurial ideas. I mean, coffee does some pretty amazing things. And when we look at it, what we want to do is, I've had these conversations a lot, like with Amsterdam and Sweden and Germany, and all of these ones are now like, holy cow, coffee. And the one thing I have said is, I think what we are doing is we are the motivational speakers of the CEA industry. That's where I think our positioning is right now, because coffee is just such a cool topic to discuss, and it does so many things compared to lettuce or a strawberry, right? Yeah. And the more that we can get people to pay attention to that, I think what we can do is create almost a Subway version of our food, because I really think that's what indoor agriculture does, is it takes and creates transparency for the consumer to be educated about what they're doing, but it creates such simple ideas to allow that consumer to create this own type of platform in their own place. Because like I mentioned earlier, I think when you and I were offline, land is not going to get bigger, right? If anything, it's going to get smaller, but farming still has to exist, or everything we're going to eat is going to be processed or made. Right. And I think with this type of innovation, we can start creating platforms that allow the average person to develop the necessities of what they need with their own kind of, incubator, right? Their own ecosystem to be able to farm and grow. It's ironic because it comes full circle from back in the day, right? When everybody, America, put your place on it. This is my land. I'm going to grow, farm, raise my kids, and do accordingly. Problem is that population's a lot bigger and our land's gotten a lot smaller. So I think it's just a full circle method of saying, okay, we can't make more land, right? So what we'll do is we'll come up with more innovative ways and utilizing technology, which is not going to go away, and we're going to bring it in, and we're going to find a way to create some transparency to our product. Because the large corporations just have too much dominance over what we eat. They're just controlling it too much, and you don't know what you're eating, and it's causing a lot of factors and problems. And that isn't in part to consumers. We love to consume. So we want it. And we don't want it next week, right? We want it today. In order to get it today, companies have to come up with ways to cut corners. We also want it cheap. Well, because we want it cheap, but companies got to put something extra in it in order to make it a little bit different, and stay on the shelf a little bit longer. Because when we get it, we also don't want it to go bad as soon as we get it home. So when we get it home, they got to spray that chemical on it and make it last a little bit longer. So I think what we are was just setting the stage. I really think we're setting the stage, and we're getting people educated about what this kind of farming is. Coffee is just a great hook for it. We'll never compete with the large-scale coffee market. Of course, I keep saying that, but it's kind of funny because the way this timing's going right now, we may end up doing it one day, but just because coffee is just getting its butt handed to us, to it all the way around right now. I think we're going to end up developing an export business of American grown coffee as well. We see that starting to play in the strategy. So, right now, to shorten it up, we're going to build something amazing that my daughter can take and build a legacy. We're going to create farming and make farming cool and allow people to kind of be part of that experience. Allow rural America to have a steady cash flow without getting wiped out every single time, and then some developer coming in and being like, well, I'll build condos and raise property taxes and push out the local farmer. The best way to fix that is I always tell people, like, look, you can turn a little town into a big city, but you can't turn a big city into a little town. So stay in your big city and just come visit my little town, so that way you can get a little bit of the taste of what it's like to be a part of it, knowing you don't really want to do it, and then take your butt back to your big city. And I think it's a good offset, right? It's a good offset for us, because sometimes when we're in a little town, we want to go to the big city. We want to sit down and have a nice dinner and have that experience. And I think it's a great way to distribute that experience. But you've got to create steady cash flow for that rural America and those farmers, because having a tomato crop getting wiped out by a hurricane randomly coming through North Carolina is going to make a pretty massive impact on the future of your farming. Right.
Yep.
So coffee, everybody loves. We can grow it indoors. We can, make it stable. We can develop it. We can franchise it. We can expand it. And we can have multiple verticals that will allow a farmer to maybe, sit by the fire and enjoy time with family versus having to get out there and grind all day long.
See, and that's something that's very important to discuss, because agriculture as a whole is in a not just a bad situation nationally, but as a whole, where we're looking at things like the aging out of the majority of your farmers, right? The new types of technologies that could add to it, and then moving forward as a nation that invests into that infrastructure. So, just to kind of wrap it up a bit, I know we're kind of going a bit over on our time. I know I just looked at the clock. My bad. I would really like to kind of touch base with how do we get in touch and how do we support T. Shane Johnson and your daughter. What's her name again?
Charli.
That's right. Okay, it was right on the tip of my tongue. Charli, how do we get in contact with the coffee bit? Everything else that we can support, our audiences can support, and learn more.
Yeah, so I can visit our website at biggunscoffee.com. Of course, all of our social media at Big Guns Coffee.
Big Guns Coffee. Big Guns Coffee. That's pretty cool, man. That's a really fun.
She named it. She named it. She drew the logo. She came up with it, and she called it Big Guns Coffee. And she said, I said, why do you want to call it Big Guns Coffee? And she said, I had just broken the world record for the most push-ups in 1 hour and did a 12-hour push-up record. And she says, Dad, not everybody can be strong like you, but maybe when they drink the coffee, they can feel like it. So I want them to feel strong. We call it Big Guns. I was like, all right, Big Guns it is.
Dude, see, that's the kind of stuff I really love listening and hearing more and more about because, you've breezed by a lot of huge accomplishments, which I love it when I get these type of interviews with people where you can just feel the truth and the genuine, authentic self, right? And I go, yeah, here you're like, I broke a world record, I'm a Guinness and all that. I'm like, okay, well, I haven't done a push-up in 10 years. Like, okay, bud, I'm going to drink your coffee. Maybe I will get Big Guns again. Thank you, Charli.
Right.
A protein-infused coffee drink. Yeah. Don't steal the idea, okay?
We've moved into the fitness industry. Here we go.
Right? It's what do they call it? A pre-workout coffee enhanced caffeine beverage. That's what you'd have to call it, a beverage, not even coffee, because the copyright's on something, people would get mad.
Right.
But so to kind of continue forward just a little bit on that, Big Guns Coffee, biggunscoffee.com.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and social media is Big Guns Coffee, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And if you guys want to hear more about T. Shane, go ahead and look up Big Guns Coffee and, of course, T. Shane Johnson in that Google machine, or Grok. Grok's been kicking butt lately. Check them out. Support Big Guns Coffee, and be sure to give us a listen, like, and share. Before I go, I forgot one last thing. Do you have any shout-outs, any last words, or anything like that?
No, just thanks, man. I appreciate the opportunity to be on these platforms. It's always great to just sit and talk about my daughter's dream and vision. We talk about it all the time. And, we wouldn't be where we are today if it wasn't for people like yourself and your audience. It takes listeners and it takes people to actually, buy the product and be a part with us and be a part of that journey and watch and search us and all of that. I mean, everybody plays a role. And I'm extremely grateful for that. We never forget that. That's one thing that's really important to Charli and I is, we just got a handwritten letter by an old Marine Corps dog. He must be Korea, I think, or somewhere around there. But so tonight we'll take the time and handwrite him back. And those things are, those are important. He bought our coffee, and he's such a salty bastard. But he said, "Your coffee's kind of expensive. I can get my good one at the Dollar General." You'll take your ass over to the Dollar General then. But it was just funny because it wasn't any ill will, it was just how they are, just raw, and I love it. So we're just grateful for those people. We're grateful for those letters and those stories and the listeners. So thank you. So guess what I'm getting at.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, T. Shane. Again, it's Big Guns Coffee, biggunscoffee.com. I think I nailed
sir.
it. Yep. Big Guns Coffee on socials, and it's T. Shane Johnson and Charli. And I tell you what, folks, if you get up their coffee, go ahead and let me know. Drop a comment, likes, all the sharing, all the good stuff, because I'm really excited to learn not only more about how good it is, because I saw that you have hazelnut, you have, Cinnabon, classic coffee donut shop, and it's just a really amazing entourage of flavors. So I'm really stoked to see where you guys go, and of course the technology and hydroponics and coffee. And again, thank you for your time today, and everybody listen, like, and share.
Internet, hello. This is number 2 and then he's for number represent or is number 6 to the question.
Well, I need to